Welcome back to the Ohio MMA Podcast. I am your host, David McKinney. Joining me on today's episode, newly 3-1 pro MMA fighter Kobe Woodall. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Going well, man. And I said 3-1 because this past weekend you picked up yet another victory. Your second on the year. Went up to Michigan at WXC 94 and got the win. I don't actually know how you won. I know I saw the big slam and you were punching him. Is that did you finish with TKO or how did the fight
No,
end?
no, I was really hoping to finish it there at the end of the first, but it went all 3 rounds there. He was a real tough kid.
Yeah, and the clip, which if you haven't seen it, I saw it up on your Facebook. He tried to get you in like a reverse triangle, and you being Kobe Woodall just slammed your way out of it. And the announcers were like, he spiked him, and he just didn't let go, and you just slammed him on his head, and we're punching him there. It looked like it was pretty close to the end there.
Yeah, what was it? 40 seconds left when that slam happened. I think about a minute in, he was real. He couldn't manipulate me as much on his back, but he was definitely able to move really well. So he got two arm bars, and I slammed to both out of those. And then I was pressuring in. He moved a little bit, got me in that inverted triangle, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit a tombstone, and I knew it right away. I was like, I'm gonna hit this thing, man. And he held on. I was like, bad choice, and then there we went.
Yeah, so you actually got the return victory, your second pro fight in Michigan. Your first one you actually lost last year. How did it feel to go back up to Michigan and this time come home with the win?
It was fun. You go on the first time, I had a little bit too much trust in my submission defense, so I'd work on a lot of things just coming up to this one. But yeah, going back up there, filled with a lot of Buckeye pride. It was kind of cool just going up there and being booed just because I'm from Columbus. Um,
Yeah.
it was a fun time, man. It was good to get it back.
Yeah, the actually went to an old WXC show way back in the day before Michigan like regulated amateur MMA, and they had like I think it was like 28 amateur fights on the card, and guys saying that they were like 16 and 37, and like they had so many tons of fights. What's the scene like up in Michigan now? I know the pros have obviously always been regulated. What's it like up there these days with the commission and the amateurs and everything?
Um, they're pretty scrappy. I mean, everybody I saw up there was pretty scrappy. They kind of represent the area pretty well, I think, for the most part. Um, some of just how things are going up there. You're like, okay, these guys are about it if they're here doing this. Commission wise, it was real smooth, real easy. Michael, the WXC promoter, he's a real cool dude. Kept everything real solid. Um, there's a few questionable uh, referee decisions throughout the night. I noticed. I think it played a little bit into my fight as well, but you gotta expect that when you're going out of town.
Yeah. So yeah, man, now you're 3-1, and I feel like you've been pro for a long time, but I realize you just hit a year as a pro. Is this kind of where you thought you'd be after a year? You have four fights, three wins, making your way up the ranks, or did you think you would have more fights, less fights? Kind of where do you feel like have you like checked in after like the first year of your career, and are you happy where you are?
Um, I'd say when I first went pro, looking at where I'm at now, I wouldn't be happy with it. But being where I'm at now and knowing what it took to get here, I'd say I'm happy with it. Um, I'd say my first pro loss. I mean, Abe's a hell of a fighter, really, really, top tier talent. But I also feel like I rushed into it too quick, um, and that was a lesson that was learned because it was like, okay, I can be all in mentally. I have to make sure everything's right. That's the best way to prepare for fights is making sure everything's there. All your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Um, but then I had that arm injury, and that put me out for the rest of the year last year. So this year I was really excited to get back into it, and got that first one out of the way, first comeback victory against a tough opponent, and this one we had to travel out. So four pro fights in four different promotions. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned your one loss on your pro career, Abe Alcigir. I feel like being having a guy that's 5-0 as your one loss is nothing to be ashamed of. But that's something too that dating back to your amateur career, you always had trouble finding fights, and you had to take super tough fights. I know you fought actually in the tournament, the lightweight title tournament for OCL, and then fought your last amateur fight against Jade Maddox. So you fought a super high level of opponent throughout your entire career. Do you feel like that's like really been a key into where you've been as a fighter? Because I know you come from a great gym at Ronin, but getting in there and fighting is a whole different thing when you're facing the toughest opponents that you can possibly face.
Yeah, that kind of really sucked too. Is just always not, well, almost knowing that you'll never get a matchup quick because there's always such a gap because nobody wants to lose, which is very strange in the amateur rank, especially when everybody's just wanting to protect their amateur record. That doesn't really matter. And going pro, I'd love to be at OCL again, but just things have never worked out for whatever reasons. Um, but yeah, traveling and taking on the regional guy, the better regional guys in different areas where it's even just hard to find tape on a lot of them because not every region has available film on opponents and stuff like that. So it has its own challenges for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to actually ask you about the your last amateur fight because you fought Jaden Maddox, and I feel like you weren't super happy with that performance, and I think you even mentioned that after. And, you lost a tough decision, and it was your last amateur fight. What did not being super happy with that performance, but then that was still your last amateur fight. What did you see in the fight, or what how did you feel in the fight that kind of made you make that decision to go pro right after that? Was it just you were tired of being an amateur? Was it, hey, I fought all the toughest guys? What made you go pro off of a loss? I feel like that's always an interesting decision.
Um, well, one's definitely age. This isn't a game. This isn't a long game for anyone really. Who's unless you're one of the few. You only get so much older, and health's not going to be there all the time. And I have miles on my body from other sports throughout my entire youth, so you have that. Um, I feel like with that fight, especially, I mean, it's been a while now looking back at it, but uh, that was the one fight I felt like I changed my game plan almost to respect the opponent too much, and everybody you just start believing the hype behind your opponent. So, oh, I got to defend the takedown, and then the camp went from beating people up to just trying to defend a takedown. And then at the time, like I don't have any high school or college wrestling experience, like most of these guys. So it just became a whizzer and make sure he doesn't double you type of day instead of a just beat the guy up. And a little more time, things could have been different, but that's way in the past now. So
Yeah.
that's
And so you mentioned obviously you don't have a wrestling background, but you did play football in college at Alderson Broadus, and you played linebacker, and that was something that I always kind of saw the influence of being like a linebacker, even though you're a lightweight, but being a linebacker and liking to hit guys, I feel like you've translated that style to your MMA game, and that you're just a guy who, when you hit people, they tend to fold. Do you feel like even though you don't have the wrestling background that you translated, your football experience into MMA?
yeah. Unfortunately, you're almost too used to getting hit in the face, even if you're wearing a helmet. That impact's still there. So I think that's one thing. It doesn't uh, affect you as much when you're just kind of used to the impact all the time. And just going forward, I feel like a lot of people have an issue running their feet on takedowns. That's not really, and just getting your hips underneath you. I mean, I've had a lot of work with that because different sports have different weaknesses, and with football and stuff, it was a lot of just quick go stuff. So up close and you're just going, it's fine, but certain hip developments aren't there, as is for certain wrestlers. Like this last fight in particular, we were working with, we brought in, he more so came in, Josh Russo came in, and he's a great Greco guy. Like he's really good, and he's been helping us out a lot. And my body lock is totally different than what it was 3 months ago. So learning wrestling late in my career. Shoot, now in my career, not 5 years ago. It almost makes me think like I don't even know how I got here when I didn't even know how to technically wrestle, and I still don't. It's just that just so little and at such a high level of a coach has helped so much.
Yeah. One other thing too that was always like that really stuck out, I think, on your career and your resume is you've had multiple opponents in your career that have actually quit on the stool and not come back out for a round, which is not the most common thing, and you've had it multiple times. What's it like, being defeating a guy that dominantly to where it's like, hey, he can't even continue to fight. He makes that decision for himself, and the referee doesn't make it, or maybe his corner makes it, but what's it like, being, having that experience in a fight? Because I feel like a lot of times it's weird because you go back to your corner, you're getting ready for the next round, and then it's like all of a sudden the fight's over. It's got to be a big, like, change of pace really fast versus if you knock a guy out or submit a guy, the fight, it's kind of a more quote unquote natural ending to the fight.
Yeah, especially with the like where it happened in the rounds during the fights. Like it was always at the end of the round, or like you said, quit on the stool, so it has to go after a round. But yeah, it kind of robs you of that sudden joy that you would get if you were to get a finish in a fight, like during the rounds. But it's also like, oh, what just happened? Because you're already trying to settle back down, get your breathing under control, get your heart rate down from round to round, and then it spikes back up when you're just celebrating. So it's cool. Early on, I would say it was nice because when everybody starts fighting, you really know if you have a certain amount of power to hurt somebody like that. And then none of your teammates believe you do because everybody says they're holding back at training. And early on, I'm sure you are a little bit, but you don't have that same control. And then after that happens, you're like, okay, I I know I have it and they know I have it. So it just kind of, it's cool to know.
Yeah. And we mentioned Ronin, and obviously, being probably the biggest gym, and one of the most respected gyms in the state. But the thing is that the generation of fighters that you're in coming out of Ronin right now, it seems like there's a lot of you that are at the same point in your career. You've got Asher Frederick, who just went to 4-1. Melvin Harris, who has 4 pro fights. Max Metzger made his pro debut. Skylar made his pro debut. Mark Antonelli just made his pro debut. What's it like having a team where there's so many people who are all going through kind of the same phase of their career at the same time? Like, you guys came up as amateurs and you were, around the title fight, portion of your amateur career around the same time, and now you're all experiencing kind of the early days of your pro career at the same time as well.
Um, yeah. So I like thinking back, I know me and Asher were in like the same beginner class. So that was 5 years ago or so. I remember us during COVID going to Scioto Metro Park and like wrestling in the volleyball pits over there because we had nothing else to do during the time. And going from those days, just being fans and guys who wanted to do it, and then growing together as to where we are now, it's really cool because a lot of people, and I'm sure there's even people that we're with now that would say that they feel like they can outgrow the gym in some form or fashion eventually, which I can see that. But at the same time, with all of us being together for so long and we continue to all grow, and then some of us will go out and then we'll come back and bring new stuff in, and not just with us as teammates developing, but also our coaches developing with us. It's cool because like we just keep pushing ourselves and getting better. Every time we see each other, we're talking about fighting and we're with each other all the time, and it's just it's a good brotherhood we've built, and I feel like we're going to grow it into something even bigger.
Yeah. And with that being said, there's also, it feels like, the next kind of generation that are just now starting to, early in their amateur careers, and it's more of the same. You've got guys going out there being dominant early in their careers. Alex Hazelwood just made his amateur debut, and he's 2-0. Ethan Shirk, Mark Truffalos, AJ Jones. So many people coming up through kind of that next, the next round. What's it like having those fighters who are maybe not necessarily trying to take your place, but like, those young guys like that are in the gym that are going to be a little bit more like maybe a little more chippy versus like having the experience where you're training with guys that you've trained with for 5 years. you kind of know and you kind of know your ins and outs. But like, what's it like seeing those young dogs coming up through the gym as well, that now they're going out and getting their fights and their experience as well?
Yeah, like Alex and AJ, they've been in the gym forever, and they're finally just now getting to show their skills like that. Um, yeah, young boy Alex, he's going to be a problem when he consistently gets more fights here. Ethan, he's my boy, man. Like I've tried to take him with me. You know, anything I'm learning, I'm trying to teach him so the way I get a better understanding of it, then he gets it. He's my dude, man. He puts in rounds with me all the time. Little Donnie Hughes, he's a little animal too. I know he's a no contest guy right now, but
Yeah,
you can't set up a head kick better than that. You know,
right.
it's crazy. You know, and AJ and Mark, I think they have a fight coming up here soon in Florida if nothing fell
Yeah,
through.
they're yeah yeah. I think they're
So
both fighting in Florida.
yeah, I'm excited to see them. And AJ's just a monster, anyways. You know, everybody looks at him and thinks, oh, he's just a Thai guy. Then they look into him a little bit more, and then he can't keep a fight. You know, and Mark Chris, man,
Yeah.
that dude's made of marble. Like I don't like going with him because we'll be drilling and he'll just crack me, and I'm like, dude, I guess you can't help it. You're just too damn big, you know. But it's great. Like I said, it's like the original brotherhood with me, Mark Asher, Max, and old heads like Fox Huber and all of us. Mel, he's gonna get mad at me because I call him an old head, but it's whatever. But yeah, I mean, these young guys coming up, like I said, it's just a brotherhood that's even grown into something larger.
Yeah. And when one of the things, I think it was before the first time I did commentary for one of your fights for OCL, you were talking and you mentioned a lot about like lifting, and that's after football you got into lifting really big. Are you still big into that, or is as MMA kind of taken over your athletic side of your life?
So I still do like lifting some weights, but it does have its disadvantages. We got lucky, and we have a couple guys that kind of come into our gyms wanted to work with us and stuff. Um, Inferno Chiropractic Performance with Dylan Dylan Seeley, yes. Um, they've they like they just come in. They're like, hey, who wants to come work out? You know, it's great strength conditioning. Um, I have work during the week, so I try to make time to get in there with Mark and Max as well. But like them alone Dylan alone has really helped my hips come underneath me. That has aided to the wrestling. Just the way we lift some more sports specific. So I guess we have went more to the MMA side of things, martial arts, to where that's the main focus for me now. Just being able to move correctly, it's made such a big difference. The athleticism has gone up. I don't think we'll ever be as athletic as Max. That dude's a freak, but the closer
Yeah.
we get, the better.
Yeah, that's always interesting because I feel like guys that get into MMA that have lifted before are like, yeah, you can't really lift and have the kind of cardio that you need, or like it just is like, and it hinders a lot of times the movement. But if you do it right, then I feel like it can really, really help you and kind of take you to the next level. So I'm always interested in guys that, how they transition and how they do their strength and conditioning for MMA. But so now you're 3-1. You had just the one hiccup on your pro career. What's kind of next for you? You've got two fights this year. Are you looking to try to get back in there super quick, or where do you feel like you're going to be in the next like 6 months to a year?
6 months to a year. I hope to get maybe one or two in the next, probably one in the next 6 months. I got some other work to do. It's taken me away for a little bit, but it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a life experience. It's gonna allow me to go around and travel a little bit, pick up some new things. So I'm excited for that. But going forward, it's as crazy as the last 5 years have been, from COVID to not getting matchups within a certain time frame. Um, like Michigan's a far drive for a fight at this level, I feel like, and I've done that one twice already. Down in Kentucky once. I've only had one fight in Ohio, so it kind of depends on what the matchup is, where it's at, when it is. But um, I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, hopefully we can get you back in Ohio. I enjoyed being able to be locally at your fights and not having to watch them on the pay-per-view streams. But are you a guy? So I saw the black eye, but are you a guy who after a fight you take some time off? Do you jump right back in the gym? Like, what's this week after your fight like?
So in the past, I mean, I like to think I put on some pretty entertaining fights. Um, it does take a lot out of me. One, it'd either be like with the whole tournament thing. After I won the title, I broke my foot in that fight, so I had to take some time off anyway. And then I didn't matter because it took forever to get back in the cage. Um, and some other times where in the past I had to diet down so hard that I was under eating forever, and weight was an issue for a while, so it kind of like jacked up all over the place. But now I got worked with some nutritionists, got everything under control a little bit more, weight staying a little bit lower. But I think I learned from my loss that time to make sure everything right is really important. You got to assess your damages, just assess how you feel, get your life straight. Um, so yeah, it's just like sooner than later, but also, you got to be responsible with it as well. There's no reason to take that risk to get back out there for something that's not a big chance in your career to improve. Like unless it's like a contender series fight or something of that level, like if there's a big LFA fight, sure, but just jump on another fight right away against whoever all the time. Yeah, it's cool. You get manly points, but is manly points going to result in a bigger paycheck or what's the deal? You got to be
Yeah,
smart with it.
yeah. I feel like that's like the maturity of a lot of fighters, and I feel like a lot of guys at your gym at Ronin, like you guys don't always necessarily, not that you're taking. Because that I would never, I don't think you guys would ever try to take an easy fight, because I think you guys actually take some of the toughest fights of any gym, but it's like a smart, like almost methodical pace that you put yourselves through, where it's like 3 to 4 fights a year, nothing more than that. And then it seems like a lot of times when you veer from that, that's when it's like, oh yeah, that's when the bad things or the negative things happen. Like I know Asher last year jumped into a fight. I think it was like a month or 6 weeks after his second pro fight, and came up short. And you said the same thing. So it is interesting to see that, and to see the maturity, and to see like the really like methodical, like I said, the way that you guys are professionals. I think even from the early stages of your amateur career, and then obviously going into your professional career, it really is almost a master class a lot of times in how to go about being a gym, but also being individual fighters as well. So that's always been really interesting to me. And you think a lot of that. I don't want to give Josh any credit, but how much of that is how much of that is the coaching that you get from Josh Williams and the rest of the coaches there at Ronin, and how much of it is just like it's kind of like a natural thing.
Yeah, it's Josh is he's on it, man. He's always been on it, always will be on it. It's just like he understands as well that the career is short. You want to maximize it, and not just from a management standpoint of making sure we have the right fights with the right amount of time to prepare for them, but also like the way he's coaching now. Like over the last year, um, our training style is just different. It's fun every day. Like yeah, you'll grind, but it's a fun grind. It's not like you're sitting there because sometimes I feel like you're in fight camp and halfway through you're like, damn, I just want to stay home and nap today. But no, every day's fun. Every day's and the injuries have gone way down in the way we train now. I feel like we're learning much more. Like I said, my wrestling alone has improved just because of the way we've been training and teaching someone who's you know I'd say, me now, 26, how to finally wrestle properly. Like, how impossible is that task going to be? But we're doing it. He's really figured something out. He's a mad scientist with this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect perfect term for what Josh is. But yeah, it's like I said, it's always a pleasure, being able to watch. I think most Ronin fighters fight, and then specifically you and some of the guys coming up. But yeah, I know you got a bunch of young guys pushing you as well. So you guys got you guys got to stay active. But yeah, man, thanks for joining me. I know I want to give you a chance. Any shout outs, anything like that? Stage is yours.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to finally be on here, man. I was for a while. I was like, well, David liked me, man. What's going on? But yeah, Mark, Max, Asher, the whole team, man. We've been at it for a while. We're gonna keep being at it. Josh, he's the man. All the young guys at the gym, I don't know, I don't know if they affect the other guys as much as they affect me, man. But that new energy, it's just nice. New blood in there keeps everything moving. So that's important.
Yeah, especially with the guy like with the mindset like or like the swagger of like a Hollywood Shirk. Like that guy is
Oh
like you
man,
gotta just you gotta like want to like put him down a couple notches, but in a good way, right? Like
nah, he's my
the
boy, man.
swagger.
Everybody else might get a little annoyed with him. But he's my dude. I'm like, talk your crap, dude. Keep it going. I've never been one to talk too much shit, but that guy, I'm like, hey, dude, do it for the rest of us.
Yeah. I love it, and going against, his 3rd amateur fight, a former, national champion wrestler, and going out there and putting on a hell of a performance against, Cornell Beecham in his last fight. He's like a guy that you're like, man, he can definitely back it up, right? Like you saw where the areas of growth are, but it wasn't like he was, completely dominated in the fight. Like he's got definitely some skill and a great future in the sport. So. Um, a lot of times you can turn more eyes in a loss than you do in a win, right? And I feel like that definitely put him on the map, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's just unfortunately, this is just a very a tedious game, and it was just the little things, like if one overhand didn't land, or if one extra step wasn't put on behind a combo and step into something. It was just little things, and he's right there, and like you gotta learn lessons somehow. So that was the one thing, but he's gonna go places. He keeps up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, I definitely was planning to have you on. I gotta spread the love a little bit. So
Yeah,
anybody that wants to be on, just all you gotta do is ask. And as long as you got a fight coming up or just had a fight or whatever, I usually try to, keep it as timely as possible. But yeah, I'm always excited, and I think I've had most of the Ronin fighters on. I got to get Melvin the next time he fights, because he's such an interesting cerebral guy. I did commentary with him the last OCL show, and you're like,
hmm
man, that guy just knows fighting, right? Like between him and Max and all you guys are like, it's so amazing to be able to have that, and but then also be able to articulate it as well. Like it's one thing being able to understand what's happening, but then being able to explain it in like an easily digestible way is that's what I always say is like don't like make it super technical, but he's like easily explaining, hey, here's what's happening, here's what he needs to do, right? Like that's I feel like multiple guys from Ronin, I've had that experience. And when I did with Asher, I don't think he took a breath the whole time. So but he was still really good. But it's like, man, he's like shot out of a cannon. But yeah, Asher is the same way. Like just the knowledge. It's always fascinates me. But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on, and congrats again on the win. Moving up to 3-1, getting the victory for the OHIO back up in Michigan. I always like seeing that.
yeah,
And yeah, Kobe Woodall, thanks for coming on, man.
yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right, and we'll be back next week with another episode.